Councillor Mammoliti, please.
Councillor Vaughan is using very, very vulgar displays of his tongue.
And I've seen it.
Yeah, would you like me to show you? Councillor Carroll, would you like me to show you?
Okay, your time is on hold.
Just deal with
Okay.
it.
All right. Councillor Carroll, please. Councillor Mammoliti, please. Can we continue?
I'm just outlining what I'm seeing.
Well, okay, thank you. Okay, Councillor Fletcher, continue.
Thank you, Speaker. Just to reaffirm that one of the statutory duties of the mayor is that of CEO, and yes,
Correct.
and he would maintain that, and that as a $10 billion corporation, the CEO role is of importance. And I've asked Mr. Maher that in the business world, whether we're dealing with Toronto Hydro or Toronto Community Housing, or if the provincial government was dealing with LCBO, there's boards there, and there are certain very prescriptive roles and steps that boards would take should the CEO have admitted to having smoked crack cocaine or driving drunk, or perhaps some of the language that was used last week in denigrating the role of the city. There are very prescriptive steps that boards take in order to control a CEO. Am I right or wrong?
I believe you're correct, Madam.
I'm correct. And that some of those would be warnings, and a board can actually require somebody to get help, send somebody to get help, or indeed remove a CEO. Is that correct?
Through you, Madam Speaker, that's correct. I'm simply going to repeat the earlier comment of the city solicitor, though, that the mayor, as an officer of the city, is in a slightly different circumstance.
I get that. I do understand that the mayor's role is different because he's an elected official and he has two different hats, essentially. But when a CEO has engaged in, let's call it, discreditable conduct in a major way, a board or those surrounding the CEO often take steps and must take steps. Is that not correct?
I believe that is correct in terms of the private sector.
Or the public sector. If this were Toronto Hydro, this was the CEO of Toronto Hydro, we would expect that board to take the normal human resource prescriptive steps that exist for boards and for corporations. Would that not be correct?
That's correct in terms of corporate governance.
So corporate governance, there are very clear HR guidelines when a board or a corporation would run into an issue or a problem like this with the CEO. And so council taking a number of steps in order to deal with some of the behaviors, the results on the City of Toronto, while not like a private or a public board. This is not something from an HR point of view that a CEO should not be surprised, whether it's in the city or anywhere else, that the body would want to take steps to limit, let's just say, the damage. Is that correct?
Through you, Madam Speaker, the other point to keep in mind in the context of the advice that's been provided by the city solicitor earlier is that there are two exercises being undertaken at the same time.
Yes.
There have been a number, as I understand it, of matters referred to the Integrity Commissioner for investigation. No investigation has to date been either completed or reported out in relation to allegations of conduct, to my understanding. At the same time, but at the same time, I think the advice from the solicitor is that council, within its discretion under the procedural bylaw, retains discretion at all times to, in accordance with its policies, amend its procedure.
For to ask questions.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, did I reduce the former mayor David Miller's office budget from $2.7 million to $2 million at the first budget meeting this year?
Yes, that's correct.
I reduced it down $700,000. So what this is recommending in front of us, that I use a quarter, 25% of 700,000 times 4 is approximately $2.8 million. So you're recommending that I only use a quarter of what our previous mayor, David Miller, used? Approximately, give or take 1%?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I'm not recommending that. That is the motion
That's
before
but that's
you.
is that accurate to say?
That is roughly accurate.
Accurate. Are you aware of our workload in our office every day? Are you aware that we receive 12 pieces of mail, 183 CMS, 552 emails, 489 phone calls, and as you know, I give out my home number, my cell number, and my OnStar number, and I receive approximately 111 calls every day?
The budget that is proposed is to split the duties so that you retain the statutory duties and the funding is for those
I understand.
responsibilities.
Did you know those numbers?
You've just advised me of those numbers.
Okay,
Mr.
so
Mayor.
on over a year, I receive 3,000 letters, 46,000 CMS messages, 138,000 emails.
Okay, just one sec, Mayor.
Can you
Okay,
stop my time, please?
Councillor Pasternak, please keep it down. There's way too much noise. Okay,
I'm going to repeat this. In 1 year, I received 3,000 letters through the mail, 46,000 CMS messages, 138,000 emails, 123,000 phone calls, and between my home number and my cell number and my OnStar number in my car, I received 22,000 numbers. Are you aware of that? 22,000 phone calls. Are you aware of that, Madam Clerk, or whoever's moving the motion? Can you stop my time when I get an answer, please?
Mr. Mayor, Madam Speaker, as I indicated, the budget is for statutory purposes. It is separating out the statutory from the non-statutory.
Okay, so, Mr. City Manager, this is virtually impossible to do with 8 people with the numbers I gave you, and these are the facts, and you know you can trace this anytime you want. How can I run the office as mayor with the numbers I just gave you, which you know are accurate, with 8 people in my office?
Through you, Madam Speaker, Mr. Mayor, as outlined by the clerk, the $700,000 number is for the statutory responsibilities. For those areas that you're speaking to with the follow-up in terms of what would be deemed non-statutory responsibilities, that is where the transfer to the deputy mayor of those functional areas would be something to be considered.
Thank you. So obviously I cannot do the job with 8 people in the office using a quarter of the previous mayor's budget.